After soaking up the sun in the Bahamas, we enjoyed a few leisurely days before our next mission. Suddenly, SimBrief takeoff and landing data required for all flights. Refer to the user guide. With a quick review of the guide, we made our way to our base in Miami, Florida. Our first leg kicks off from Miami, whisking us to the vibrant shores of St. Maarten. The ride is aboard a nimble 737-800, carrying a cozy 138 passengers on board. Flight 1085 is scheduled to depart from Miami at 8:35 a.m. with an estimated arrival time of around 11:35 a.m., making for a 3-hour block time. I organized my essentials: iPad, charging cables, display cleaners, and a refreshing can of sparkling water with our most current Navigraph AirAct data, as well as the most current Navigraph apps. I pull up my iPad to look up the weather details in the ATIS. Noting our departure runway of 26 left for the morning takeoff, we annotate it in our charts app. I open the browser and bring up SimBrief dispatch interface, navigating to the left side menu. I clicked on Performance Tools icon and double checking that all of our data is accurate. I opted to use the Populate from last flight option, pulling down the data from our previous dispatch generation. Entering our aircraft type as a 737-800 PMDG economy configuration, departure is from Miami's runway 26 left. We set the short length to 0 since we won't be utilizing an intersection departure today. All measurements are in feet and pounds. Moving on to the takeoff weight section, we input 150,800 pounds. For flap settings, we force it to 5 since the 800 model prefers a tad more flap akin to the sensation of rotating a 700. Thrust is set to optimum, bleeds on auto, and anti-ice remains off for this departure. Taking into account the winds of 275 degrees at 8 knots at a temperature of 32 degrees Celsius and an altimeter of 2990. We have dry surface conditions and we opted to keep flex assumed temperature enabled. This setting allows us to slightly reduce thrust, extending the life of our engines without sacrificing performance. Improved climb can increase our maximum takeoff weight or flex temperature at the expense of potentially a much higher V-speed. But the Everglades being flat means that we are likely to be climbing limited. So we'll disable this today. Selecting Calculate in SimBrief, we review the provided data. The results show a V1 speed of 143, a VR speed of 144, and a V2 speed of 150. Noting the stopping margin of 2,500 feet, we acknowledge that in the case of a rejected takeoff at V1, we'd have about 2,500 feet of stopping distance remaining. The calculated assumed temperature is 50 degrees, which we input into the FMC for the N1 setting. Pulling up the KLADA 2 departure, the Jeppesen charts provide essential information on our departure. After takeoff, it's a slight left turn to 254 degrees to Casino, then to Cozy, and then RNAV to KLADA. We'll climb up to 5,000 as referenced on the chart and hope for higher as soon as possible. The Navigraph Unlimited subscription gives us access to the complete Jeppesen electronic charts library. It covers over 7,000 airports worldwide. Subscribers also get access to current and matching data for simulators, add-ons, and tools like SimBrief. The takeoff and climb was uneventful but offered us really nice views out of the window. SimBrief takeoff performance did the trick. Preparing for the landing well in advance is a smart move, especially for a destination like St. Maarten, with its short runways and iconic approach over Maho Beach. Let's dive into the landing performance calculations to ensure a smooth touchdown without turning the flight into a cruise. Entering the landing performance calculations for Boeing 737-800 in economy configuration at TNCM, or Tango November Charlie Mike, runway 10 with no shortened requirements. All measurements will be in feet and pounds. Our landing weight is 139,000 pounds with a flap setting of 40. We set the autobrake to 2 for now. Considering the ATIS report, of the winds are 134 degrees at 8 knots, temperature 31 degrees Celsius, and a pressure of 29.904 inches. With dry conditions, we opt for the in-flight method and factored distance. This method calculates a 7-second flare time from threshold to touchdown, plus an additional 15% safety margin. This gives us slightly more conservative outcomes, which is ideal for this scenario. Hit the calculate. Yeah, oh no, we have red alerts that say maximum runway weight exceeded. Okay, that's no problem. I suspect the autobrake 2 is an issue. Let's go ahead and change it to autobrake 3 and hit calculate. Yikes, that still won't cut the mustard here. We're still restricted, all right? We still have an additional 2 more settings we could play with. Let's go to autobrake max and hit calculate. Bingo, we got a winner. Just understand the brakes may be hot and we may need to take some brake cooling time on the ground. As you can see, we're looking at a margin of about 1,600 feet of runway remaining with max auto. As you can see on the chart here, when we have stopped, we'll need to backtrack to the runway and expect to vacate via Delta. Well, the weather was fair and the approach was smooth as we touched down in St. Maarten on time and a bit tired. Consider subscribing to Navigraph for oil navigational needs. Remember, simulated flight, real navigation.